Hello there guys, Davinator right here, and today I got another movie review for you. Now the movie that I'm reviewing today is the final installment of the original Bourne trilogy. Now of course there's going to be more Bourne movies in the future, but for now, the Bourne trilogy, and then, that crappy movie, The Bourne Legacy, which I'm not even going to spend time talking about. But anyway, so, Bourne Ultimatum. Now I love the first film a lot, and the second film is definitely a very good movie, but with definitely more flaws than the first movie. So how does this one stack up? Well, let's get into the plot. Now, the interesting thing about this movie is that for a large portion of it, it actually runs on like a sideways timeline with the Bourne supremacy. Like, a lot of the things that are happening in this movie happen like alongside the Bourne supremacy. So basically, if you were to like do an edit and like mix them together, like it would all just be like one movie, and it would work well. At a certain point, like the ending of the Bourne supremacy, like it's shown in this movie, but from a different perspective, and then it continues from that point on, and the last 30-40 minutes of this movie do take place after Bourne supremacy, or I believe it was like the last 30-40 minutes, but yeah. This is like a sequel slash parallel timeline movie to the Bourne supremacy. But anyway, so yeah, Bourne, he's on the run. He's been framed. The government, they still think that he's doing bad stuff, but he's not actually really doing bad stuff. Like in Bourne supremacy, because it's running the same timeline as that movie. But also, you realize that there is another portion of the government that may or may not have worked with Treadstone in the past, and they're trying to cover up for Bourne, and so you get a whole bunch of different sides and like a whole bunch of different perspectives from the government. There's there's corruption, and it's just Bourne is trying to get on top of the situation and make sure that it's all over. And so, how is this movie? Awesome! It's a great movie, just like the first one. Now, I wasn't disappointed by Bourne Supremacy, because it's too good of a movie for me to be disappointed. It's a very good movie, as a complete package, it's a very good movie. Like, the first hour and 10 minutes or so of the movie, it's decent, but the last 30 minutes are just great. And because of that, it definitely brings the movie up a notch. And Bourne Supremacy is a very good movie. But this movie is great. I'd have to think about whether or not it's better than The Bourne Identity, but it just might be. Now, this film uses the most shaky cam of the entire series, and of course that's what we're talking about in these shaky cam done right movie reviews. But yeah, Paul Greengrass. In Bourne Supremacy, the shaky cam wasn't done quite as well at times as it was in the first movie, because the first movie you can just pretty much completely tell what's going on the whole time. But in the fight scene in the middle of the movie in Bourne Supremacy, for the most part, I can tell what's going on, but there were a couple moments towards like, okay, you don't need to shake that much, but they were brief, as opposed to, whereas in most shaky cam fight scenes in movies, the entire time it's like, okay, quit shaking, quit shaking. So in Bourne Supremacy, for me to only just a couple times be like, okay, I can't entirely follow what's going on, so really that's still good. And overall, it was a good fight scene. It was brutal. In this movie, the shaky cam is done to perfection. There is pretty much not a single moment in this movie to where I can't tell what's going on. I can see everything clearly. This movie has the best camera work of the entire series. I can perfectly tell what's going on the whole time. It's definitely pretty shaky, but you can still see what's going on. And not only that, this movie has the best fight scene of the entire series, one of the best fight scenes of the past 15 years, and to be honest, possibly one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. Top 10 best fight scenes ever, and I'm not alone in that. There's actually a fair amount of people that are like, yeah, that fight scene's amazing. When Bourne fights Desh, oh man, that was amazing. The choreography is so awesome. It's grounded in reality. It doesn't feel like entirely impossible. It's a little bit less realistic than the one in the first movie, and definitely less realistic than the one in the second movie, but it still feels like, there's a possibility that a fight could go down like that, though it is more exaggerated. Like Die Hard, exaggerated realism. But yeah, oh my gosh, that fight, it's brutal, it's rough. Every single punch, there's a big loud sound effect, and the choreography, it's so clever. It's just an amazing fight scene. It really is. And the camera work, the shaky cam, it's done perfectly. It makes you feel like you're there in the middle of the fight. You can feel all the punches. Whenever Bourne gets punched in the face, you feel like you just got punched in the face. It's really, well, and the shaky cam is done to perfect effect. This movie also has great car chases, and there is definitely a lot more action than Bourne Supremacy. That was the only thing that I was seriously like, okay, this is kind of a problem with the Bourne Supremacy, because there's not nearly enough action in the movie. There's just not enough action, as opposed to the first movie, which is so fast-paced. This movie has as much, if not a little bit more action than the first movie. This movie is just as fast-paced as the first movie. It never stops, just from the very opening scene. Because in Bourne Identity, you had at least 20 minutes at the beginning to where not much is happening, and then it goes, and just gets really fast-paced. In this movie, from the opening scene, it never stops. It's so fast-paced, and not just from an action perspective, but yeah, just the fighting is great, the gunfighting is great, just the car chases are awesome. It's just, man, the car chases have always been like some of the best parts of the Bourne movies, like arguably more so than the first movie. And the car chases in this movie, the car choreography is as good as ever. It's awesome. But let's not just talk about the action, because yeah, the action, I think I've said enough there. It's just, this movie has possibly the best action of the entire series, with maybe a couple exceptions. I mean, maybe there's one or two action scenes in Bourne Identity that's maybe a little better than one or two action scenes in this movie, but for the most part, the fighting is even the best in the series. The car chasing is like on level with Bourne Supremacy, almost on the level of the car chase in Bourne Identity. It's just, the action is fantastic all around. One of the best action movies of the past 15 years since the year 2000. But yeah, so let's talk about other stuff. Let's talk about the story. It's good. It's interesting. It's like the first movie. It's not like the most like meaningful, heartfelt, amazingly mind-bogglingly story ever. No, it's not like that. But it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a spy movie. It has a spy movie plot. There's military and government and CIA jargon that's spat around in this movie. But the dialogue in this movie is the best in the series. Like when, agents are like talking to each other, like talking about like in control rooms, they're trying to get Bourne, they're trying to, they're looking at security camera footage and trying to find out where he is. Those scenes are the best in the series. And, the direction also just makes those scenes more exciting than it was in past films. Because the movie is always moving. The direction, like the camera work is always moving. But in a good way. You can tell what's going on. But, yeah, and just the dialogue, it feels more human. The characters in this movie feel more human than they have in the entire series. And Matt Damon gives the best performance of the entire series. It's one of the best performances he's ever given, and that's definitely saying something, because he's Matt Damon, one of the best actors working today. He's a great actor. This is one of his best performances, by far. He's terrific in this movie. In the first movie, he's really confused all the time. He's not sure what's going on, but he's still on top of the scenario. He's able to figure out stuff quickly, like when he's given the resources he needs to actually figure out what's going on, But in the second movie, he's a lot more bitter. But in this movie, there's the perfect balance between likable and really bitter, and like, yeah, I'm gonna murder some people if they mess with me. And yeah, his character is great. And the dialogue in this movie feels much more smooth. It feels like the way people talk in real life, more so than the first two. It's really good. And all the side characters, I mean, is her name Julia Stiles, or is that some other actress's name? It's, whatever. Anyway, there's the female character who goes alongside Jason Bourne in this movie at a certain point. She's very good in the movie. She's great. She feels like a person, and it's very nice to see them interact, and, it kind of harkens back to the first movie, and, you get to see, like, their relationship. It kind of reminds Bourne at times. He has, like, brief flashbacks to, like, dialogue exchanges he had with the girl in the first movie. It's very cool, and, yeah, this movie is more heartfelt, and the characters feel more human than they have in the rest of the entire series. And it's definitely helped by the dialogue, and overall it's an interesting story, and you finally get to find out, like, what's been going on the entire time. You find out, like, where Bourne came from, like, what was going on, like, what the entire situation was with his character, and how he ended up where he did in the first movie. It's just, it all makes sense, it all comes full circle. It's very cool. It's very cool, as I said. Yeah, it's just, you are, like, very interested throughout this movie. Like, dang, what's going on? Come on. Like, I mean, like, in the first movie, you get a little bit of closure. Like, oh, okay, so basically I understand kind of what's going on there. But, like, you do get more questions, especially in the second movie. And in this movie, like, you know, Bourne's, he's having flashbacks. He's kind of starting to remember stuff, but not really. And he has to, like, he goes to these places, and he's like, I think I remember this. And, you know, it's pretty interesting. And it's kind of a mystery film. But yeah, I love the character of Desh. He's just following Jason Bourne through a decent portion of the movie, and he's just trying to kill him. And yeah, of course, you get that great fight scene between them. It's really awesome. The movie is relentlessly exciting. It's a great follow-up to Bourne Supremacy. It's definitely better than Bourne Supremacy. It might be better than the first movie, but it's at least on the level with the first movie. And in conclusion, the Bourne trilogy, they're some of the best action movies that we've had recently. They're great films, and I love this movie, The Bourne Ultimatum. I'm going to give it an A. I almost said A+. No, not an A+. This movie gets an A. I don't really have any problems with this movie. I just can't quite get it to an A+, but it is an A. It's a fantastic action movie. I love it. I've seen it several times. I'll see it several more times. Absolutely, it's a great ride. It's very fun, very brutal. All the characters are more likable than they've ever been. The acting is the best in the series. The dialogue is better than ever. The story is very interesting. You really want to find out what's going on, and you get involved in the story. It's great, and this movie has a terrific ending. And that's like, I mean, I've just loved the endings of every single individual Bourne film. Like, the great thing is, like, each film in the series, or like at the end, the same song plays. I can't remember the name of the song, but like, I mean, just the way that the song goes with the movie, it just, like, because here's the thing, in each Bourne film, like, you don't get other pop music that plays throughout the movies, and yet, like, this, it's a pop song, basically, but, like, when it plays at the end, for some reason, it doesn't feel out of place. It really goes well. It just feels, I mean, maybe just me, but for some reason, it just goes well. It just goes perfect with the ending of Bourne Identity, Bourne Supremacy, and this movie, Bourne Ultimatum. And, you know, it also adds just the further connection of these movies, because Paul Greengrass' style of direction is definitely very different from Doug Liman's style of direction, but it connects these movies together, and so you still feel like it's the same series. And yeah, and also not just the music, but just the way these endings are executed. They're just very cool. It's like, man, I can't wait to see the next movie. And with this movie, The Bourne Ultimatum, it ends on the perfect note. It's just, I love it. And if this entire series just ended right there, I would be perfect with it. But then we got Bourne Legacy, and that sucked. But then we get Bourne 5 in late July 2016. That's when it's set to come out. I mean, Paul Greengrass is directing again. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. So yeah, can't wait for that, guys. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please rate and comment and subscribe. And if you want to, you can also share. And please look forward to me talking about more movies in the future, where I discuss why I think these movies did shaky cam right. Goodbye.